Hello everyone, I'm Harjit, and today I'm here to talk about the fourth industrial revolution and if whether it's going to be a boon or bane for the society. So let's start. Everything around us is being digitized, and we heavily rely on technology today, even for the most basic tasks, and we do that without realizing. For example, autocorrect on our keyboards is actually working because of artificial intelligence, and I bet you cannot type without errors if you turn that feature off. This huge wave of change is similar to that brought about by the industrial revolutions. Yes, multiple industrial revolutions, but we'll get back to that in a minute, which is why this wave is being termed as the fourth industrial revolution. There were multiple industrial revolutions that took place in the past few centuries, each of which changed the world in a different way. First brought around the factories and offered a new occupation. Second brought about the factories 2.0 and more technologies and scientific advancements. Jobs were generated and lost. Third was the introduction of the world to computers, aimed for making mathematical tables. We'll get back to that as well. It made those jobs obsolete, but generated new jobs. So let's get to the first three industrial revolutions. The first industrial revolution was started by the birth of the steam engine. This facilitated the new manufacturing methods that were never before seen and never before thought possible. Up till this point, large part of the society was agrarian. People worked in farms, and so when people saw something new to do, they jumped at the opportunity, gave up their farming jobs, moved to cities to work, start working in the factories. No skills were required, and just manual labor was required, which meant anybody could do the job. Women and kids were employed too. But there was a fundamental problem: poor working conditions. People were made to work long hours, were paid very low, and were made to work in unhealthy work environments. Besides, because the pay was low, kids were forced to work in order to support their families. And then there was a significant gender pay gap. Women and kids, of course, were paid less than half of what men were paid. This led to an interesting problem. Men lost jobs during this revolution because women and kids were available at cheaper rates, and all they had to do was manual labor. Men were not hired, and women and children were hired over them. And as children grew up to become adults, they were fired as it started costing more. This was a very interesting time. Around the late 19th century, technological developments reached another high, and this was termed as Second Industrial Revolution. Internal combustion engines and assembly lines were perfected, and the factories changed once again. The need for manual labor decreased. Electricity was also made available commercially, and new technologies like telephones brought the world closer. But as the demand for manual labor had decreased, women lost jobs. The ones that were still working, for them the gender pay gap was significant. One good thing happened though. In many countries, laws were put in place to enforce education for the children. This pulled them out of the factories, and this also gave them a chance to do better in their lives than just working in the factories. Third industrial revolution was very beneficial or very degenerative, depending on how we look at it. Around this time, we saw the rise of computers, which were basically aimed for making tables for artillery were used in war or sailors, which were earlier made by hand. The computers were also used for decoding encrypted messages during the World War II. Third Industrial Revolution also saw the rise of the internet, which again brought the world even closer. And computers opened up unlimited number of possibilities. A huge one being at that time being data handling, and computers were put in place at airports and banks to handle large amounts of data. This was a significant breakthrough. The third industrial revolution was a significant breakthrough for the skilled people, but it didn't really help the unskilled labor a lot. They didn't have a role to play in this industrial revolution. And this just further widened the gap between the rich and the poor. Now that we've talked about the first three industrial revolutions, let's talk about the fourth industrial revolution and how we know it's here. As I mentioned earlier, AI is everywhere in the society. An impressive amount of research has been made in the field of technology, And there are numerous applications visible to us currently: self-driving cars, virtual assistants, smart homes, and many such things. Apart from this, medical field is developing too, and rather quickly, and things like genetic modification have become possible. This can help eradicate diseases by modifying a person's DNA. This technology can also be used for modifying people to such an extent so as to create designer babies. These recent developments are going to contribute to the change that is being termed as the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So, what benefits does the Fourth Industrial Revolution have for us? Well, the good parts. Research by the Nokia Bell Labs analyzed the patterns of developments of the previous revolutions and the following emerging digital equivalents that align with the technological foundations of the golden century: digital energy, digital transport, digital health, and digital communication. Digital production was also added to the list a bit later. These technologies have already started changing the world, and we can already visualize what our lives might look like at the end of the revolution. Transport is getting all automated ever since autonomous driving technologies and active safety systems were developed. These things are causing a huge impact in the society. Almost all of the motor accidents are caused by human error. As these systems are becoming commonplace, we can see that the fatality rate has been on a decline. Actually, the fatality rate is further expected to see a notable decrease as level 4 autonomy or complete autonomy is introduced, as taking humans out of the picture altogether will vastly improve the safety. Health sector also has many applications for AI. Robot assisted surgery is such a technology which, with the help of AI and robotics, can help improve the accuracy of surgeries and can reduce the chance of errors. This would help make surgeries both quicker and less complicated, which would ultimately be better for the patients. Also, AI is being used to diagnose illnesses in patients. As researchers have shown with Watson, AI can be more accurate in diagnosis and can provide a better treatment plan than humans can, and far quicker. The use of robotics and AI has also trickled down to the factories. More and more humans are being replaced by robots in an attempt to boost productivity of the factories and reduce the production costs. As even after a big initial investment, robots are going to have less overheads, which would translate to cheaper goods and more profits. So yes, AI is taking over everything. Jobs are being automated, better quality or accuracy is being achieved, and everything is becoming cheaper. Too good to be true, right? Well, there are some bad parts. As all of this happens, a tectonic change would happen to the world economy. Technologies are becoming advanced and jobs are going to change as we know them, whether we like it or not. In the past decade, many jobs have popped up which never existed before. App developers, for example, Uber drivers, and etc. While some don't take away jobs, some do. For example, an Uber driver replaces a conventional taxi driver, and the Uber app replaces the job of a taxi dispatcher. And there's an example of technology taking away a job. True, jobs are going to be generated still, but a thing to notice here is that many unskilled jobs are being converted into many skilled jobs. Not very good for the society. Actually, studies by World Economic Forum show that around 5 million jobs are going to be lost by the year 2020 due to the fourth industrial revolution. But what does this mean for the common man? Unskilled and semi-skilled people lose jobs, and as has happened in the previous revolutions, the gap in the society are widened even further. If if an unskilled worker wants to get out of the situation, he or she needs to acquire more skills in order to become relevant to the job market again. But to acquire new skills, one needs sufficient financial support. And this is what is estimated to lead a large chunk of people into poverty. We just talked how the fourth industrial revolution is significantly better for the companies producing goods. Currently, there is a serious competition from factories operating in developing countries for the factories operating in the developed countries. As AI and robots replace humans in the factories in the developed countries, the cost of production for these companies goes down, and these companies are then equipped to fight the competition which is being offered by the factories operating in the developing countries. Once this happens, the factories in the developing countries lose their price advantage and hence start becoming irrelevant. The jobs are lost over there, and poverty increases in those countries. While the gap between the rich and the poor is bound to grow, there is another group that is going to be affected badly: women. Today, we are trying hard to achieve gender equality in workplaces, and this is definitely not good news. According to according to reports, although the number of jobs lost will be divided equally over both genders, women will take a bigger hit because they are already less in number as compared to men. The current male to female employment ratio is 1 to 0.67. This translates to the following: for every new job that is gained, men will lose 4 jobs, while women will lose 20 jobs. Not good. Whatever we might say, there is no denying the fact that the revolution is going to have dire consequences on the job market, leading to a huge hit to the society. So, what can we do? Well, there are some things that we can do to reduce the effects that this revolution is going to have on the society. One solution to this problem is a universal basic income. UBI is not exactly a new idea, and it has been around for a while. It was first thought of in the 19th century by these guys as a solution to theft. While it didn't catch on around that time, it was definitely tried to be revived at around the 18th century, late 18th century, with an aim similar to the one that we have today. While UBI would not directly help eradicate poverty, it would aid the unemployed population to handle uncertainty and would act as a financial support to reduce the wealth gap in the society. Well, this idea seems feasible, but it has a significant problem, that is the funding. As people lose jobs, there will be less number of people to pay taxes to the government, and as the governments of the countries receive less taxes, they won't have enough money to fund schemes like the universal basic income. Well, to tackle this problem, what can be done is that income tax can be levied on robots or artificial intelligence, which is replacing humans. In this, uh, uh, in this way, the companies would still have to pay some amount of tax on the behalf of the robots or AI, which can then be used to fund schemes like UBI. Well, this certainly has an unexpected effect. Uh, Remember, we talked about how the companies working in the developed countries are having an advantage due to the use of robotics and AI. Well, that advantage goes away now because they again have higher production costs as compared to the developing countries, and the factories in the developing countries don't really become insignificant if this is done. Well, another notable concern that we had regarding the fourth industrial revolution was the projected gender inequality in the job market. Well, currently in the technical fields, the total number of people working in the tech industry, only 20% of those people are women. This is the reason why women are projected to lose more jobs. And an obvious solution to tackle this problem is to urge more women to move towards industries which are expected to grow. That is the STEM industries: science, technology, engineering, and mathematical professions. These industries are expected to grow at a much quicker rate in comparison to the other fields. While these solutions are that's very helpful in avoiding the effects of the fourth industrial revolution, it is absolutely necessary that these or any other solutions are applied as quickly and as carefully as possible. Well, that brings us to the conclusion. When we take a look at the first three industrial revolutions, we realize that they had a lot in common. They significantly changed our lifestyle, and they made our lives easier. And at the same time, they managed to create a notable income gap in the society. As we compare the fourth industrial revolution to the previous revolutions, we see that this revolution too follows similar patterns. That said, we can say that we have come to a realization that this revolution can do more bad than good. Equipped with this knowledge, we can definitely plan ahead of time and take appropriate actions so that we can neutralize the negative aspects of the fourth industrial revolution. Thanks a lot.